Hi, Hannah. How are you?
Hello, good. How are
Talk
you?
to you again. Yeah.
Okay.
So I want to talk to you and asking of you your opinion on this subject. So most of us, a lot of the time, we actually say even ourselves suffering of seeing our friend and our family member suffering because we love them, right? And even though that we can have stories a lot about is it's only you only memories, it's not really, it's true, there's really substance and this and that, but still is that because our compassion and our love, for our loved ones, including of our friend and family. And I used to actually is that having so much of issues, I seen other people, even people that I don't know, that suffering, and then I would have the heartache. And I actually over the time developed a condition with my pericardium, you know. And then I remember is that when certain things happen, even though logically or behavior wise, I was not, let's say, particularly say being upset or sad, but later on, I would feel myself the pain, around my chest. So,
Okay.
so it's something which that all of us facing, that whether it's a family member that's suffering, or in your eyes they are suffering, or is that our friend is suffering, like they panic about oh, who and who their family is sick, or who and who their friend is sick, or depressed, and I have friends like that too, like they constantly telling me about that. And I remember myself that even spent a lot of time actually, to spend time with them and talking about is that how that our thought also play a part in of, because our whole consciousness is really just one, right there is one aspect of oneness. Our thought, definitely, affects of everything also. So what do you
Yeah.
think about this?
Well, I think that so your question is, what do you do when somebody that you love is suffering? How do you approach the situation? Is that correct?
Yeah, how you approach the situation, that even though you compassionate, and you even like spending time and accompany them, how can you not being sucked into the story, and even like actually is that causing heartache on yourself and even affecting your own health.
Well, so I think you kind of got it right there, is like how to not be sucked into the story is like by being aware that it is a story, right? You need to be aware that you're creating a story around the situation, whether or not the person is truly suffering. Sometimes we have an idea that someone's suffering because it's not our idea of what a life should look like or something. But on the other hand, let's say they truly are suffering, going through a really hard situation. In that case, you can place yourself in a compassionate position and ask them, or say, like, hey, it hurts me to see you suffering. What can I do to help? Right? You can place yourself in a supportive position if you feel like you're able to do that. And then on the other hand, let's say it's a story you've created about somebody else's life and they're suffering. And you need to understand that, why have the burden of a story in your mind over someone else's life, right? If you don't know what's actually going on and you're just assuming things, right? Why have the burden of that story? Like, you need to let that story go. But also, I think that there's a lot of things about this. Everything comes from you. in your life, right? In your ego, in your heart, in your soul, everything's coming from you. So you need to learn how to be around other people and not take on their things. Like you need to learn how to love people and accept what's happening in their life and, you know, offer advice when they're asking you. And then other times you need to understand that people are just doing what they're doing. Like they're just going through whatever they're going through for whatever reason. And usually it has nothing to do with you. And if certain situations are affecting you so much, or you know they're draining you in a way, then you need to separate yourself somehow. You need to learn how to either be able to view this situation as separate from you, and so it doesn't affect you, or you know, if it really is a tough situation and you can't handle it, then you do need to learn how to remove yourself and set boundaries.
Mm.
I just think everything is really like, think about the story in your head around the situation, you know?
Yes, yes. For me, it was that actually it took me many, many years to learn like how to deal with situations like that, you know. It took me a very long time. And what I have found is that, yes, it is true, you know, that first of all, there's one layer of projection that from myself, you know, like being affected by the story. So it's like, you know, they have a story, and then we, from that story, we created another story, you know, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I was remembering very well. Yeah. And then another is that also what I have found is that part of the reason that it's not wise for us being sucked in the story, not because that we don't care, but rather is that when we are being sucked in, we are not helping actually the situation at all, you know,
No.
not actually in any way actually helping that person. And
And
in
I also,
ways, yeah.
yeah. But to add to that too, I think that there's always a level of, I want to say like elitism when it comes to thinking that we know what's better for somebody, right? Like you're having some sort of entitlement in a situation if you're looking at somebody suffering and thinking that you know better than them in terms of how they can get themselves out of a situation or something like that, you know? Like, I don't know. I guess an example that I might have is this is kind of a strange example, but the other day, uh, Canon showed me, or my partner showed me a post of somebody who's like, she's a young mom or something, and she posted like, "Oh, I know this kid who's like suffering in their family life, you know, should I call Child Protective Services and like try and fix it or whatever?" Like just because you're a parent or like just because you're, you know, whatever, then why do you think that you should be putting yourself into a situation, right, to save the situation? Or like why do you think you know what's best for the situation when really you don't know anything, right? Like you're just creating a whole, like you said, you're creating a whole new story in your own mind about the situation and involving yourself in a way that doesn't really, it doesn't really make much sense at that point to sort of put that onto yourself. And you know, everybody is dealing with their own stuff in this world.
Yes, yes, that's true. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that you hit the nail, you know, when you said that is that sometimes, you know, that we have felt there's an entitlement that we are the one that actually knows how to solve the issue, you know, and actually in reality is that we actually don't know. Yeah. Now, on the other hand, is that how to say is that because, you know, we are all together, you know, in this whole consciousness. So, and for me, in my case, is that actually is that I don't even need to hear the person saying story. I actually know how their body feel. So I know that their body is not feeling well because my body is feeling their pain, you know?
Well, I think this is a common thing that a lot of people experience who are more empathic, is that they'll pick up on other people's pain and then not really know what to do with that. And sometimes if you're sort of in the beginning of experiencing that, you might think it's your own pain and, you know, and may not be able to differentiate what is yours and what is not yours. So I think that that's where like building more of the inner awareness and developing some practices inside of yourself that can really help sort of determine what are your feelings and what are not. And if you are having other people's feelings, then you need to learn how to cleanse that off of you. Like you need to learn how to let that go and kind of be okay with feelings, right? Like we have this idea that negative feelings or pain or sadness or whatever is like a bad feeling and we need to make it go away, but it really is just a feeling, right? Like all feelings are actually neutral, you know, like it's actually okay, right? To experience it and let it pass, you know, feelings always change, which is a really, you know, important thing to know, especially if you're an empathic person, is that will always shift. So you don't need to be scared of a feeling. So
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Okay, great. Now, the next thing, of course, is that, you know, we can go into the next topic